Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first episode of PodPaca. Before we begin, I wanted to say a couple of things. First is that we will be having new episodes of PodPaca about every other week. We are aiming for about 2 a month. And then an important note on the episode that you are about to listen to is that we talked to our guest, Pastor Andy Behrendt, in late April after Easter. So there will be some discussion about Easter, Holy Week, and how there's still some snow on the ground in April. So I hope you enjoy the first ever episode of PodPaca. Hello, everyone. My name is Joe Drake.
And I am Tim Drake.
And this is PodPaca. PodPaca is not just a podcast, but a way to learn more about the people that live around you. We are both from the small town of Waupaca, Wisconsin, so we will be talking with people that are part of Waupaca in some way. We know that this podcast will be more enjoyable for those of you that are familiar with the Waupaca area or from the state of Wisconsin. But if you're listening and you're not familiar with Waupaca or Wisconsin, or maybe you've never lived in the Midwest at all, you will get to learn about the people in a place that's outside of wherever you could call home. Today on PodPaca, we will be talking with our special guest, Pastor Andy Behrendt. But first, you should get to know about us, the two hosts of PodPaca. I'll let you go first, Dad.
Well, like I said, my name's Tim Drake. I've lived in Waupaca for approximately 18 years. Me and my wife, Michelle, came here from Indiana and, just fell in love with Waupaca and turned out to be an exceptional place to raise our son. And, I can't say enough good things about it. So we just wanted to share a little bit of the charm of Waupaca with whoever may be interested.
Hello, my name is Joe Drake. I grew up in Waupaca for almost all my life. I graduated from Waupaca High School back in 2020, and now I am a student at Ithaca College in Ithaca, New York. In Ithaca, I study film, television, and screenwriting. I also am Tim's son, so it's awesome to be able to do something like this with my dad. And I hope everyone will enjoy PodPaca just as much as we will be making this. And before we get started, I do want to quickly mention our two sponsors, Lucky Tree and Northern Home. They are two wonderful gift shops located in downtown Waupaca. And now let's get started talking with Pastor Andy. So today our special guest on the first ever episode of PodPaca, he is the head pastor at Trinity Lutheran Church in Waupaca, Wisconsin. And you may have seen him in an improv club or two somewhere in the Fox Valley area. Please welcome Pastor Andy Behrendt.
Hi.
Hi, Andy.
Thanks for having me, Joe and Tim. Good to be here.
Yeah, no problem. You just got finished up with Easter week, pretty much a big mega Easter week where you had a ton of services all week.
Yep.
How was that? And are you tired from it?
I'm tired. So this is the perfect time to have me on the first podcast. I'm so excited and honored to be your first guest on PodPaca. And it's the perfect time because I've gotten a little bit of sleep to recover from all the Holy Week and Easter craziness. But I can't guarantee whether I'm going to make any sense. So I'm sure it'll be great.
Well, it was a good service, man. It was.
Oh, thanks. It was a very, very nice Easter. It was really good to sort of, be able to gather in great big groups again and do that stuff again. So yeah, I'm really grateful for that.
It's been a long time since I've been to church, other than meeting with you or something.
A lot of people. I mean, it's just a lot of great people. Haven't been able to get out much, and so it was a lot of people we hadn't seen in a while. This past week is great.
I was just curious, what, you had a 6, 8, and 10 o'clock service that day?
Yeah, 6 a.m., 8 a.m., and 10 a.m. And yeah.
Were they all pretty much equally as full, or?
No, the late one had the most. They kind of, more people kept coming to each subsequent service, and 6 o'clock was I don't know, like 100 people, but that's amazing to me that many people get up that early. And then we had, you know, considerably more at 9 or 8, and then more than that at 10. So yeah, it was pretty full at 10, which, you know, it's always nice these days to have a full gathering space. So we did. That was good.
Good. Yeah, I was up pretty early. I was actually making eggs about 5 o'clock in the morning, and
That's
try not to wake up other people. Unfortunately, I think I woke up my mother-in-law.
Yeah, I was trying at 5 o'clock on the way out the door not to wake up my wife, but especially my 8 and 10-year-old sons, because then they wake up my wife. And yeah, so I think I pulled it off. I think they were still zonked from watching Star Wars the night before, so that was good.
I understand that Star Wars is a thing with them now.
Yes, yeah, definitely. And then they got a combination gift. Ben and Christian both got together the new Lego Star Wars game on Nintendo Switch. So we haven't even gotten a chance to start playing it yet, but they were very excited about that for an great Easter present. I didn't get video games for Easter. You know, my mom and dad didn't give me video games for Easter when I was a kid, but you know, the grandkids get anything they want. But yeah, we made our way through the original trilogy just in time for that. So we got a Disney trip coming up this summer, so we had to make sure that they've seen all the movies, at least, if not all the new Star Wars shows. So that's good. Both boys had seen the original 3 movies, episodes 4, 5, and 6 before Christian could remember, but Ben at least had a pretty good memory of what was going to happen at different points in the movies. So
Okay.
yeah. And then for good measure, because this is really important, and I don't know how many of your listeners are aware of this, but in the 90s, they changed the ending of Return of the Jedi when they released the special edition, and then they kind of retweaked it again later on, like in the 2000s. But I had to show the boys, and they knew about it because they play the song all the time in the car and stuff, but we had to watch the original Ewok celebration ending, where you know, in a very cheesy 1980s fashion, the little, you know, dancing Ewoks sing a song called Yub Nub, and Yub Nub, they're all like dancing around and making crazy gibberish, and it's so great. And then for some reason George Lucas decided not to keep that in the movies, but so yeah, you can still get the old ones out there, and it's worth it just to see the Yub Nub song. But I've got nothing more. Go ahead.
I question some of George Lucas's decisions sometimes.
Absolutely, yeah. And then you know, then all of a sudden they take the movies away from him, and then everybody's questioning what George Lucas would have done. So anyway,
yeah, no win.
He needs some money, so it worked out okay for him.
Sure.
I heard that Lego Star Wars game is just jam-packed full of stuff. I imagine there's supposed to be so many hours of gameplay on there.
That's cool. We kind of figured, because my younger son and I were just playing my old PlayStation 2 copy of the original trilogy Lego Star Wars game, and that in itself was loaded for a game that's like more than 15 years old, I think now. And yeah, putting all the 9, you know, episodic movies together in one game is pretty exciting. But yeah, so I'm really looking forward to that. I to be honest, full disclosure to everybody, I don't want to throw my parents under a bus here. I suggested, when they're like, do you have any gift ideas for the kids? I'm like, yeah, get them that Star Wars game. They'd really have fun with that, you know. The kids would love that. But you know, I kind of wanted it too. So thanks, Mom and Dad. It was kind of an Easter gift to all of us. So now I have gotten video games from my parents for Easter. Or yeah. So anyway.
Do your kids play like the Lego, actual Lego?
Yeah, and they don't have like that many Lego Star Wars ones, but yeah, tons of Lego sets. And now it's shifted more over to video games. So
because don't they have like a big giant Lego set for like the Death Star?
Death Star and the Millennium Falcon and all that stuff have awesome, huge Lego sets. And
wow.
Yeah. But yeah, they got a good handful of them, because then they were breaking out the the Lego toys they had after we were watching the movies and stuff. So yeah,
That was one of my regrets growing up, because I remember seeing the lines for the Star Wars, and they were wrapping. I mean, our movie theaters were in a mall back then, and the lines for Star Wars were just all the way back. I mean,
yeah.
hundreds and hundreds of feet. And I always regretted not seeing Star Wars in the theater at that time, because I didn't want to wait in the line all that time. So
Yeah, I can only imagine with the original ones. I was telling my kids, my first memory of going to a movie in the theater is Return of the Jedi, but I think it was like a second run thing. But that's the first. I don't know if it was the first movie I went to, but it's the first one I remember going to, and can like distinctly remember like being in this movie theater while you Princess Leia takes off her helmet and you realize that the bounty hunter is actually her. And that was my first like memory of movie theaters, which is awesome. And then of course I did like the like the late night showings of the prequels when they came out. Episode 1 came out right before I graduated from high school, so that was like another like sort of rite of passage, even though like looking back the movie wasn't all that good, but it was great at the time.
it's been that long ago when they released that.
Yeah, 99 was the first one.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Wow.
yeah, it's crazy. So yeah, now those ones are like as old as the first ones were when those came out. So yeah, it's not.
I did see the original Halloween movie on Halloween night in the theater.
That's cool.
Wow.
That's cool.
What I remember about that is back then the theater, I mean, they were truly jam-packed. The theaters were.
Yeah.
And people are still allowed to smoke and stuff in them.
Oh my gosh.
There's just these big hazy smoke-filled theaters, and it was kind of surreal. But I saw Jaws when it was released as well in the theater. And back then, I think, if memory serves, Jaws was rated R then.
I think it might have been.
It was.
Violence. And honestly, I see why that scared people, because I was maybe 10, 11, 12 or something when that was released. And my cousin took to see it. And
wow.
I hadn't ever seen anything like that before. It just couldn't, I couldn't even go fishing in our little lake there for a while. I was so freaked out.
Yeah, I mean, I saw that in college. It's one of a handful of movies that our professor for whatever sort of film class I took showed us that one. I don't remember why, but that was the first time I'd seen it was in college. I mean, still sitting in an auditorium at university was still, it's a crazy movie. But
well, I grew up, you're probably old enough. You've probably been to drive-ins.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, that actually, I may remember vaguely. I don't know what the movie was, but I know my parents took me to a drive-in one time. That may have actually been before Return of the Jedi. I can't remember, but
my parents took me. I couldn't have been more than 4 or 5, but for whatever reason, the movie they picked to see was Deliverance.
Oh my gosh.
I don't think they were thinking clearly.
No, it's the name sounds nicer than the movie. Actually, I've actually not seen it, but I'm familiar enough.
It's a good, it's a good movie, but not
classic.
It's not appropriate for like a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
Probably not even a 10 or 15-year-old, probably. But
no, the outdoor movie theaters are great, and we've drive-ins. We did. Maybe this was the first time. Maybe we used to. My wife and I, Tracy and I, used to go to the drive-in outside of the Twin Cities when I was in seminary about 15 years ago, and that was great. And we took our kids to the one up in Door County this past summer, which is I think the first time they've been to one. But my uncle Mark, who's a pastor in Texas, who just had heart surgery yesterday, was. Shout out to my Uncle Mark. He was in Minnesota one of those summers, the summer that The Dark Knight came out, with his youth group there in the Twin Cities. So he asked if I had any ideas of like things that his youth group could do. And I'm like, well, Tracy and I are going on opening night to see The Dark Knight. And, if you're comfortable taking your youth group to a PG-13 movie or whatever. And I mean, like, talk about like a classic like thing to be a part of with your youth group. I mean, going to see The Dark Knight in an outdoor theater, awesome. And I mean, yeah, I wish I had something that cool on my resume as a pastor. Took my youth group to The Dark Knight, a drive-in, but we had no idea how good that movie was going to be either. I mean, it's amazing.
That was amazing. Heath Ledger just knocked it out, man.
And I don't know what it is. And we actually, I don't do this very often with people, for anybody listening, but the three of us went to see the Joaquin Phoenix Joker movie together.
Yeah.
One of the few times I've gotten to go see, movies, especially gritty as that one with church people. But I don't know what it is about the Joker. Because this was exactly, I just thought of this when the actress won the Best Actress Oscar for West Supporting Actress Oscar for West Side Story, because that Anita character had two actresses, I think, win the Oscar. And the Joker, likewise, that character has had two people win that Oscar. And with Joaquin Phoenix, like, you kind of knew he'd probably be pretty good because he can be like an incredible actor. I don't think anybody knew how good of an actor Heath Ledger could be until that movie came out, because I had only seen him in like these like teen, pop movies and stuff. And I remember being really skeptical when I heard that, because Christian Bale is great. And I mean, like, was immediately excited about his casting as Batman. But then when that sequel came out, and they had, before that, they announced that Heath Ledger was going to be the Joker, and I was like, what? And I just started. We have HBO Max, and I'm about 40 minutes into the new Batman movie that just went online streaming yesterday. So I have to say that so far I'm also impressed with Robert Pattinson. But yeah, Heath Ledger. I mean, and unfortunately, like, I feel like that sort of method acting that I think he did to get into that character sort of destroyed him on some level too. Because he was so dark, but it's so incredibly good. That was really too bad. He died before the Oscar he won.
What'd you say about Robert Pattinson?
He's the new Batman, and he was, I only knew him from I think I saw the first Twilight movie, and that was enough, but sparkly vampires and everything, and but then like Collins, our youth coordinator, was telling me, no, really, he's a good actor. And I was reading that, I'm like, okay, really, I just thought he was kind of a cheesy teen idol guy again, like Heath Ledger, but he was really good. I really enjoy the movie so far. I don't know how it's gonna turn out. So but
I'm not a fan of his. I mean, he played what, Cedric Diggory, is that right? In Harry Potter.
Oh,
that's a blind spot for me, is Harry Potter stuff. I've not read the books, although I have them all because a nice person from church gave them to my kids, and so that's one of the things I want to do this summer, is to start reading those. But I've only seen the first and second and last movie. The first two because my friends dragged me along, and the second one was because I actually covered it for the paper. Like, it was terrible. They had me write about the Harry Potter movie when I'd only been familiar with only the first movie and not the books at all. And then the last one, actually, I did go with some people from church. The first summer full summer I was here, but yeah, that I didn't even know he was in Harry Potter. I did not know that.
He was in Tenet too, wasn't he?
Yes.
I've not seen that, but that's a good one, right?
I didn't like it.
Didn't like it?
It's not one of Nolan's best movies.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say it's a Nolan movie, right? Okay, yeah.
He's an awesome director. The fact that movie is one of his worst is pretty impressive, but it was one of those movies.
Have you guys seen Memento?
Oh yeah.
Oh, I saw that one in the theater. Like, that was like when I was in college, and my friends from the improv troupe were like dragging me along to movies, and that was one that like somebody heard was pretty good, and we watched it, and we're like, holy smokes, that's an awesome movie. I've still not watched it on the DVD that I've had for close to 20 years now, in chronological sequence. There's like a version, if you unlock an Easter egg in the disc, which is really cool the way they did it, you could watch the whole thing sequentially, which I still have to do. But yeah, I love Christopher Nolan, but I haven't seen Tenet, so yeah. I won't rush
just
to it.
okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's worth watching, but for a Nolan film, I found it just disappointing. If anyone else had directed it, I would have thought it was awesome, but
Yeah,
I
right.
just expect more out of him usually.
He's had a really high standard. Yeah. I just can't wait for our local movie theater to reopen. I hope maybe by the time that this is out there for people to hear or see, that the Rosa is reopened. But that's such a cool part of town here. I really, really hope that can get going again. So
I haven't heard anything.
yeah.
They keep kind of changing their sign once in a while.
Right. Hibernating till the next year. Yeah. Right.
I don't know what the deal is.
Well, yeah, I'm gearing up to, I'm figuring I'm going to have to see Doctor Strange here, Doctor Strange 2 in Appleton or something, because I really thought, well, by the time we get to the summer blockbusters at the start of May, it'll hopefully be reopened, but I haven't heard anything. So
I like our little theater.
I do too. It's super. It's a fantastic. That was one of the coolest things when the night that I got the call from the bishop here at the time. And this could, we could spend another 20 minutes talking about how weird this is, but the church that I'm a part of, the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America, that Trinity's a part of here, has they do basically a draft for new pastors, incoming pastors coming out of seminary. And when I found out that I had been, drafted for the East Central Synod of Wisconsin, and specifically that the bishop here at the time wanted me to, interview with Trinity and Waupaca, one of the first things I did was go on, I don't even know if it was Google Earth at the time, but it was like Google Maps Street View, and looked at the pictures of the downtown, and first thing I found was Little Caesars next door to the church. Yes. And then I think I had already heard from the bishop, or somehow I think I knew immediately that there was a Dairy Queen next door already. But then well, that's great. But then the Little Caesars was like, okay, that's great, because for a while in the Green Bay area, I went a period of time without Little Caesars. After for a while there was no Little Caesars in the Green Bay area where I was growing up and going to college. But they had them in Minnesota. I'm like, okay, good. Waupaca has a Little Caesars. And then I walked down Main Street with the laptop. This was all during a class I was supposed to be paying attention to in seminary. I was figuring out what Waupaca would be like, and one of the first things I saw was the Rosa. I'm like, that's cool. It's like an old little theater, and gosh, I hope it comes back. But
well, I haven't heard anything about it actually closing.
No, and they're still getting FedEx shipments, because they're, you see the little slips on the doors and stuff. So I'm hoping.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's a staffing thing.
Well, that's what I kind of figured, because I know that's been tough for a lot of businesses and stuff. So you guys probably know something about that. So.
Well, we could probably use a few more staff, but we're pretty solid right now.
Well, I was going to say you're I'm sure a great place where people want to work. So that's cool. Lucky Tree and Northern Home are great places, everybody. Can't say that in a church service, but
no, yeah, Waupaca is pretty cool. I guess,
cool.
I keep hearing rumors about T-dubs opening.
I was going to say, I hope that is more than hot gossip by the time people are able to digest this podcast. But I am so missing T-dubs. I can't even tell you how much money in gift cards I have, some of which I got through a silent auction that started before COVID and ended, a year later. And we kind of on speculation bought the package with the T-dubs gift card in it, hoping that, we would, be able to use it.
Somebody told me that they were going to maybe redo their menu a little bit. I really hope they keep their stuffed mushrooms. I love those things.
Oh, they have to. I don't like mushrooms, but everybody talks about those. Yeah.
For Michelle's birthday, we went out to Simpson's the other night, and that was good, man.
I have to say, the last couple of times I've been there, it's been really good. Unfortunately, it's often been for funeral luncheons, but yeah, Simpson's is great. T-dubs is, there are so many great places to eat in Waupaca, but that's the one I've really been missing, because it's just kind of its own, sort of entity that Waupaca doesn't have anywhere else. So
yeah. Well, we had our Christmas party, our staff Christmas party at Simpson's last Christmas, and
cool.
Finally nice to be able to do that, to be honest.
Yeah,
we kind of missed there for a year or two. but that was, yeah, they do a good job, man. And the other night, it's the first time I've had liver in a long time. So,
Yeah.
because no one in my house will eat it. So what's the point of making it? So
I cannot fathom eating liver. It's right up there with jumping out of an airplane. It's just one of those things I don't have on my bucket list. And my grandmother loved it, and my great grandmother, who was a Swedish immigrant, loved it. But no, I don't need liver and or onions in my life, honestly. So
kind of surprised you don't like liver and onions. You seem
no,
like you
yeah,
would.
that's my great grandma Toots. We called her. I didn't even know her name. Her real name was Ostrid. I didn't even know that until like my grandma, her daughter died. But then her and my grandma Gladys both loved liver and onions, and I just can't fathom that. But
What was your grandma's name?
Ostrid, Astrid. I always thought her name was Elizabeth, but apparently that was sort of the Americanized name she took. So this is here's another great topic. I just did DNA. Tracy and I both did ancestry DNA tests. We got those for kind of a Christmas gift. And first of all, I just got more Swedish. They just updated me, and I got more Swedish than I even thought I was going into it. But my initial results a few weeks before had said that I was much more Norwegian than I thought. Still more Swedish than Norwegian, but now I'm much more Swedish than Norwegian according to the update. However they figure this out. But yeah, I knew I was very Swedish because both my mom and dad, had a lot of Swedish ancestry. And yeah, my dad's grandma, my paternal grandmother's mother, who I always thought, we called her Toots, but I thought her real name was Elizabeth. I guess it was really Ostrid. She had actually come over. I don't know what sort of boat brought her over ultimately, but she nearly took a ride on the Titanic. And I'm glad that didn't work out. I think it was too expensive. So, my family would not probably exist if we weren't so cheap, so that's it worked out really well that way. But yeah. So yeah, I'm very Swedish, and my great grandmother Toots used to apparently call my great grandfather, her husband, a stupid Norwegian when she'd get angry with him. And so now my parents did the DNA test before we did, and yeah, apparently he probably was pretty Norwegian, if not stupid. So
Do you know? Do you know if she saw the Titanic?
I don't think so, but I mean, like, because I don't know how it was going to work. Because like what the Titanic took off from England, right? So she would have had to go there first. I don't know if she still went through England or how long she was there, but I thankfully remember her a little bit, not as well as my kids got to know my remaining grandmother, who just died last year. They thankfully got to know her pretty well, but I remember my Swedish great grandmother, and she had a very thick Swedish accent, and we used to joke that if she saw the journal that I was writing in for second grade, we had to write in a notebook that was our journal. She'd call it a urinal and stuff like that. But she also she had a saying, and I'm thinking of this often, this month of April that we've been in here, that she would say that snow in April is as good as sheep poop. Let's just say she would say the full. I don't know if she ever really totally comprehended swear words in another language, but she actually would said that. She said that snow in April is as good as sheep poop. And I always thought she was talking down on snow in April. And I did not even realize until my dad talked about it in I think a Facebook post, that she was talking agriculturally. It's actually really good for crops if there's snow in April, just like there's good qualities of sheep manure. So but I felt the other way, that there's it's about as good as sheep poop. For me, I don't need snow in April. So
no, my background, I found out, is I grew up everyone telling me, my great grandfather came from Ireland, all this. Well, after doing a lot of study and looking back, I can't find an Irishman anywhere. It turns out I'm from Norwegian, Swiss, and a little bit of Sweden in there as well.
Yeah.
Joe, he's a lot bigger mix.
Yeah.
His
Mom's side.
Yeah.
side, like German, French, Scottish, a lot of that. So
Yeah, it's really something. And one of the biggest surprises, besides, that I was that much more Norwegian, and my parents, I think especially on my dad's side, found out he was more Norwegian than he realized. I have I'm only 2% Germanic Europe, even though I have this like unpronounceable German name with all these consonants that don't need to be there. Behrendt. I was actually trying to spell my name to somebody earlier today, and they're like, wow. Because you don't need the H or the D, it really doesn't need to be there. But yeah, I got a German name, but I'm only like 2% Germanic Europe, and 59% Sweden. It's also Sweden or Denmark, but it pinpoints me to places in Sweden, and then 27% Norwegian. But it used to be different. It was like, yeah, it was pretty close. It was like they're both in the 40s percentage wise. So I don't know. I have no idea how they do this stuff. It's really fascinating to me. Other than the fact that have either of you done these, or know people have done these?
no, not yet.
No.
I was at least comforted with the reality that I am my parents' child, because some people find out otherwise. I've heard, of many people that find out, wow, dad was not my dad, or whatever. But it also, it's a little bit daunting, because you spit in a little vial and you look at this thing and you think, well, I could spit enough spit for that thing. But it took me a while to spit that much, which is as much as I need to say. But yeah, anyway.
What, do you got to fill a whole vial up with spit?
Yeah. And then so I mean, at least it's not like a blood draw or anything, but yeah, I didn't realize how hard it is to spit that much, but.
Yeah, they had us do spit tests for COVID.
Yeah.
And it was probably similar to that, and that was actually kind of terrible a little bit.
I would rather have that swab up my nose
Yeah.
many times than to try to spit that much.
I only had my nose swabbed a handful of times. I didn't really find it to be that uncomfortable.
No, it's not. It's not that bad, but it just like makes you like sneeze almost or something.
Well, I thought I'm prone to nosebleeds, so I thought,
oh yeah,
it would make my nose bleed, and it never did. But no, I didn't. I'd heard the horror stories, so I was expecting the worst, like they were gonna like be taking a piece of my brain out or something. But
right.
it wasn't like that at all.
Yeah,
but,
like the Egyptian mummifying process, right?
Yeah,
take your whole brain out through your nose.
Oh, those wacky Egyptians.
Yeah. Crazy stuff.
Yeah, didn't they take that stuff out and just put it in jars?
They put it in jars. Yeah, they like basically had like a different jar with like a different Egyptian god's head on it for each of your organs or whatever. And
yeah.
But anyway, yeah, at least I know now that I'm my parents' kid, and I'm more Swedish than Norwegian, so that's encouraging. I honestly was a little bit proud of being a Norwegian once I've been kind of digging in a little bit more into Norwegian history, and while I've always been partial to Swedish history and Swedish pop music, especially ABBA, Roxette, Ace of Base. I mean, some of the greatest music ever produced came from Swedish people, and now I'm less partial, because now I realize I'm more Norwegian than I thought.
Your service, I was wanting to ask you kind of along the same topic. I'm fully aware that the Easter Bunny and Easter eggs and stuff like that, I mean, those are symbols, I guess, of fertility would be my guess. But why are they mixed in with the Christian beliefs? I've always wondered that. You get into like the Christmas tree, that's more of a pagan thing.
Pagan tradition, yeah.
So I've always been curious why these are, brought in and been put in the mix.
Yeah, so that's really interesting, and I'm not by any means a good expert on this, but I do know that like Christians have stolen like a lot of stuff from other cultures and sort of reframed it to be about Jesus. And so yeah, like the Christmas tree went from sort of this pagan thing with, and solstice for that matter. I mean, I think like even Bible scholars will say that it's pretty unlikely that Jesus was actually born in like, Christmas time, right? But it worked out great because it, ended up being a way to, a good time to celebrate the birth of Jesus when people were used to having a big celebration when there was the darkest time of the year.
Yeah, I mean, what didn't they used to celebrate? What is it, winter solstice?
The winter
Didn't-
solstice, yeah, which was very close. It was like the 21st, 22nd of December, and they moved it a few days to the 25th. But I mean, I think Easter, to my recollection, was something similar where, yeah, there was like a springtime, celebration, and that's where it. I mean, Easter, granted, falls as close as we can figure out to when it happened relative to Passover, which has to do with the moon, which is why Easter falls in a different time all the time. So that part like really makes sense biblically, but I think it also is absorbed some character of the I'm sure some things that were done to celebrate springtime, because how can you not celebrate springtime? It's just I'm waiting for it to come, and again, I hope by the time that this gets out there that it's actually nice outside. But
No, I
yeah,
was
it's
just
interesting.
I've always been curious as to why those were folded in there. I mean, I could see it also as being a peaceful resolution as well.
Yeah.
Is the kind of merger of sorts to keep people from I guess hurting each other. I don't know.
Right.
So.
Well, and I mean, like it honestly, I mean, like there's a Bible passage. It's one of my favorites, and I was actually talking about this. We had a fairly well publicized. I didn't even recognize that it was there was a chance it would end up like it got a little bit of coverage from the Washington Post, but I did a conversation, a couple of different versions of it with a guy I know, a friend of mine who's a pagan minister, and we were just kind of talking about those traditions and stuff. And there's a great Bible passage where Paul the Apostle talks to the pagans of his time and tries to reframe their understanding, inserting Jesus into their framework of what they know and understand. And I think that's a respectful way of trying to articulate your beliefs to people. And so yeah, anyway. I like Christmas trees. I like bunnies and eggs. The egg thing at least has become a good, sort of illustration for the empty tomb and, crack an egg open and, whatever. But it's also just kind of funny because, right, it's similar to like Noah's Ark, stuff ending up in a child's, nursery, right? Like, you got a Noah's Ark, bed set, and actually that's kind of a tough story about the world getting flooded, and yet it, like Easter, I mean, this is it's wonderful. It's coming out of like the darkest part of the Christian story, death of Jesus on a cross, and then it's all of a sudden about bunnies and ducks and everything. But again, you're meeting kids where they are, and bunnies and ducks are great. So
Yeah.
It's back a long time ago when I had my groups and we were going into caves or on adventure outings or whatever. There was some real terror there for these kids. So I was very adamant about keeping it low key with my staff. It'd be an example, if you're going in a cave, the kids were worried, oh, are there bears or they're this, that, or whatever.
sure.
No, it's all fine. It seemed like, I don't know, once in a while, a volunteer staff person or something would start popping off. Oh yeah, there's bear, they'll eat you if you don't, I'm just like, dude, you got to stop. We want this to be an enjoyable adventure. We don't want to terrify these kids.
That said, the one and only backpacking trip I've ever been on, which was one of the first youth trips I did a couple years after I started here, it was a trip to the Porcupine Mountain Wilderness in Upper Peninsula of Michigan. I was very concerned about bears, to the point that somebody handed me bear spray just in case. I had a bear bell ring around, to try to jingle it away from me or whatever. But yeah,
I've never encountered a bear in the wild.
me neither, and I don't really need to. It's up there with eating liver and jumping out of an airplane. So
I did see a wolf one time when I was out in the woods, and I was overlooking this big field, and I saw him coming across the field, and just the most gorgeous animal, just amazing.
Cool.
And I was quite happy he was way across this field, several hundred yards, but yeah, that was pretty cool.
I almost forgot, there was one run-in with a bear, Joe. I told you about this, right? When your confirmation class was out at camp, and I didn't tell them this till years later, till right before Joe graduated, but there was a bear that we actually, our summer intern that summer said to me, there's a bear over there. And at the time, the camp actually did have a couple of bears, mama bear and her cubs. And so, yeah, the mama bear was looking around past the tree line behind the kids when they were doing an activity in the field. And thankfully, like they said, it was fine. But you didn't see the bear at all, right, Joe?
No, I had no idea about
Yeah.
it. And I think if any kid would have seen it, they would have started screaming. So
That's where we told the counselor, hey, the bear's over there. And she was like, it's all right, she'll be good. And yeah, that was it.
Didn't you see a bear when we went out west, Joe? Remember if you saw a bear? Yeah, on the track.
We might have. It's very possible. We were going through Montana, so I don't 100% remember. But I think I saw a bear when we were riding on the train up in the mountains somewhere. You remember more about that, Dad? Because I don't.
Yeah, it was a cool trip though, but I don't. Yeah, I remember the rapids and how dangerous that looked, and you didn't want to stand very close to them.
Oh no. Yeah, I don't want to slip and then fall into rapids.
No, that was if you fell in there, you're just done.
Yeah.
That was amazing to see that kind of power, right? But then we went across that little makeshift bridge.
Yeah.
Your nephews wouldn't even go across it.
Yeah.
I still got those pictures of you standing there and all that water just flying underneath you. Pretty cool.
Well, I thought it was cool because it looked like the bridge in one of the Indiana Jones movies.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like it didn't support more than 6 average sized people, so it wasn't that strong of a bridge. So it looked just like in the movie. So I thought it was cool and wanted to go on that, but I wanted nothing to do with those slippery rocks.
No.
Rapids.
Again, can you imagine living all that time ago and like having to like just kind of make your way past that sort of treachery out in the wild? And I watched The Revenant. Have you seen that one?
Oh,
yeah. That's, oh my gosh, that bear scene, and Tom Hardy's terrifying in that one too.
I love the way they shot it though.
Yeah, Inarritu's cinematography is fantastic.
To me, it was almost dizzying.
Yeah,
got it, and
like Birdman, totally different movie by the same director, and that's just amazing because it's I still don't understand how they did it, but it feels like the entire movie is one long shot, which is unbelievable. It's all seamed together in like a continuous shot. But
you haven't seen it yet, have you, Joe?
I have not seen either movie,
either of those,
Revenant or Birdman, yet, and I need to, but I have quite the long watch list, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's also a really good one.
How young I am, and then there's just so many movies. And when I was, I can't watch The Revenant when I was like 10. So
you don't want to watch like Deliverance, yeah.
I can't be making the same mistake. So
yeah.
Well, I did want to talk about you as a pastor, and I wanted to know more about day-to-days of being a pastor, and maybe there's some things we don't realize about being a pastor.
Yeah, so thanks, Joe. That's a great question. So one of the trickiest things I think that people don't realize is that the expectations for pastors are that you don't really form like friendships with your church members, which makes it really hard. And I mean, like on some level you have to. I mean, like I've known you guys forever here, and at the same time, you're really supposed to be drawing that line where, like, especially once you leave a congregation, you're really expected to pretty well sever ties with everybody. And it's a good thing because it allows for the next pastor to, establish themselves and, not kind of get in the way of that. And sometimes when that doesn't happen, when pastors kind of stick around, that can be tricky. But we're really supposed to keep our distance. And then just because we're supposed to always be, mindful of not forming those friendships or dual relationships, that can be really hard to really connect with people. So and like, especially in a community like this, it's sometimes pretty tough because I have a handful of friends that are not church members, but most of the people I end up spending time with are. So it makes things like the improv stuff and the stuff I've done with the high schoolers really nice, because you actually do connect with people in the community that don't have to be your parishioners, because that can be kind of tough, because you never know, even if it's a friendship, if at some point you're going to end up having to be a pastor to the person, their family. And I've also done some stuff with the Waupaca Community Theater. Now we've done a couple of renditions of the Frankenstein radio play, so that was a really cool thing and Mrs. Reeves is a part of that too. So Monica and a whole bunch of people, some of whom I just met through that process of doing that improv stuff. That's been kind of nice. So yeah, I it's great. I mean, it's like I love the people here, and I'm called to love the people here, but I can't get too close to them in like the traditional sort of bond of friendship that you would have with other people. So that's probably one of the trickiest things for pastors, and people really get frustrated when pastors have to say, I'm sorry, I can't stay in contact with you because I'm leaving for another church or retiring or whatever. And that's one of the hardest things. But I think the classic misunderstanding is that we just work on Sundays, which is so totally not true. We're recording this on a weekday, and I carved out some time, but it's been a very, very eventful weekday here to do this. And it's really, I love it. I love being a pastor because you're constantly doing something different. I mean, it's like I can't think of more of another career where you're doing more things that are totally different. I mean, because like one minute you're preaching a sermon or teaching a class, and then you're in a hospital giving communion to somebody, or you're kind of like a technology expert these days. You're sort of like a producer of a live streamed thing. Joe's been one of our live streamers, super helpful. That's been really important now. But so yeah, there's just like always different things. I mean, there's management elements to it, and it's and then there's just some things that you just don't do anywhere else. And you work with so many different people, which I love too. That's my dad was a pastor, and just always appreciated how much he was able to tend to a variety of people, and I really like that. So
Yeah, I do want to touch on the technology side of things, especially since there was a pandemic.
Yep.
But you have a YouTube channel now for
Yep.
church that I think is just great. Like, it was originally used for COVID reasons, but now you're using it when the pandemic's over, and it's been still such a great success. Have you been amazed of how many people are going to church, and also the amount of people that are watching it online? Like the Easter Sunday service, there's a ton of people that went to the services in person, but 225 people in the last 2 days have watched that service online.
That's cool. Yeah, I mean, it's like the thing that we've had people, this is really cool, who came here and have been coming here regularly, who first found us online, which is really, really cool. There are some people who can only see us online. There are some members who had to like move during the pandemic and haven't been able to establish themselves in like a physical church community. So we've had people in other states who are still worshiping with us. We had a family with a terrible tragedy in their family that was able to reconnect from way out west, by way of this. We've had people who have had to, move into nursing homes, and sometimes in nursing homes outside of our area, that are still able to take part. And it's been really interesting, because especially like as the pandemic was a little more ferocious, I've done visits with people, and I'll say like, it's so good to see you again. It's been a while. It's like, well, it's not for me. Lady will say, I just saw you 2 days ago on the YouTube thing. So that's been really cool. it's also, it's a little bit daunting to know that, you know, you've got the ability for that many different people to see you. And you hope that much more that it's going to, you know, be meaningful and connect with people and, you know, reach people with the good news. But it's fascinating. And I don't know that we would be, I'm quite sure we wouldn't have gotten around to it now if it weren't for COVID. So it's definitely propelled us into some things that we absolutely needed to do, and we'll keep doing, thankfully. So yeah, technology is something else. I mean, you think about how much the world has changed, and it does make a challenge, you know, because, you know, you really would like to be able to connect with people in the most, you know, intimate and deep ways possible, but sometimes people can't do that. So it's been great to be able to, we had church members, you know, who hadn't been able to attend for a long time from nursing homes and places that have been able to connect again. So yeah, and I mean, it's very easy to share too. I mean, people can, it's like if something really resonates with them, they can very easily pass it on to somebody else. And you know, you've got a lot more reach with what you're trying to do, which is really cool.
Oh yeah, for sure. And the setup is just so impressive, I must say. Like,
Well,
it's
thanks.
very well done. I was just so impressed when I first saw it. It was just, yeah, I thought it was just so amazing. Like, because, you know, it's a pretty, like, it's a pretty impressive setup. It's not just, you know, some video camera that someone's holding the whole time. Like there's a lot that goes into each service on the technology side of things. So it's been very impressive. But we were thinking, well, your YouTube channel has done so well at Trinity, but here at PodPaca, which is, yeah, pretty much me and Dad, we thought that maybe you would want to have a slogan for your YouTube channel. So
Okay.
any of these you can use.
Okay.
You don't have to use them if you don't want, but they're all free game to you guys if you want.
All right. Awesome. Okay. Great.
So yeah, if you can use them for promotion or whatever, but here's a first idea we have. God doesn't care if you're watching in your underwear. Watch Trinity on YouTube. There you go.
I like it. It rhymes and everything. Yeah. And I wonder how much, I try not to wonder, but I bet you that happens more than I realize. Yep. I like that.
All it takes is a YouTube search for you to go to church.
Yeah. That's funny because it's true. Yeah, right. Exactly. And it rhymes. That's great. I love it. I never noticed that church and search rhyme. That's great.
Before the game, instead of tailgating, go to church and do some praying.
There you go. Yep. Good public service announcement with that one.
When you accidentally wake up at 11 and you still want to go to heaven, you can watch church on YouTube.
Right. And disclaimer, I would still contend that you could still go to heaven by what God does, even if you sleep in. And yeah, right. But yes, yeah, that reminds me of and oddly enough, I chose him to be the godfather of one of my kids afterward. But one of my best friends for my ordination wrote a check out very nicely, very generous check to the church here where I was starting. And he put in the note field regarding heaven. And of course knew that, you know, that was a joke, but okay. I like it.
We got a few more here.
Yes.
How about you could use you get unlimited wine when watching church from online.
Yes. Yeah. And boy, I'll tell you, I won't get into this, but yeah, doing online communion has been one of the most interesting parts of this, because that took a lot of thought and discernment, which is a nice church word we use to do that. And whether or how to continue that has been another fascinating one. So yeah.
A couple more. We have, no longer will you need to be determined to not fall asleep during the sermon.
Oh, nice. I love that one.
Yeah.
And you can always pause it if you do. Yeah, that's great.
Be smart like Abraham. He knew a lot, and watch Trinity on YouTube.
Oh, I hope other people catch that and appreciate that one as much as I do. That's great. A lot. Good old lot.
And then last one here. You can now drink plenty of brandy when listening to Pastor Andy.
Oh yeah, there you go. That's true. If it's not the wine, it's brandy. Yeah.
Didn't we have one about Job? I can't remember.
Job.
Yeah. Something about Job's robes. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't have it on here, unfortunately.
Something like now you can be like Job and just listen in your robe or something.
Oh,
Yeah, sure.
yeah.
I like that. Yeah, those are great. Thank you. I will have to think about putting those on as a tagline.
Yeah, I talked to the church council about
Yeah,
that.
exactly. I still got one church council meeting before I go off for sabbatical, so I'll have to throw this at them next week. Yeah.
Yeah, put it in their capable hands. There you go.
Exactly. Oh, that's really fun. Thank you,
They'll
Joe.
appreciate it.
It's great.
Yeah.
Who is the
Well-
president now of the council?
David Leader. Actually, I was going to talk about him when you were talking about bears, because I know they've had some bears in their yard north of town. Yeah, so he's also a captain, in retirement for the stern wheeler for the Chief Waupaca. So
Very
that's
nice.
another thing I should promote too, is Chapel on the Lakes, which is not an exclusively Trinity thing, will be happening throughout the summer, starting in early June. And I get to do the last week of that in August once I get back. Though it's the one Wednesday of the season, Wednesday nights, 6 o'clock. I think you get there as early as 5:15 to register, to make sure you get a spot out at the Harbor Bar, Clearwater Harbor. And sometimes Dave is not only the president, but also the boat captain. So
Yeah, the harbor. I mean, we can't be too far away from trivia then.
no,
So-
that's right. Yeah, that's right. This was a big year for this trivia team that I've been at least occasionally a part of, and we did well last year. So we're hoping for more of the same next year. So
Yeah, we were trying to think up names for it since we
yeah, we
won
really need a better name. I was thinking about that too.
Yeah, we do. And Joe thought we could really, we could call ourselves last year's winners, but that might be
yeah, that's rubbing it in a little bit. You're asking for it, I think.
Yeah.
So
we're gonna have a target. Let's make it big. Big target.
that'd be
exactly.
so awful. I mean,
But then what last time there was one night where we were last week's winners because there wasn't a contest that week before or something like that. Last week's champions, I think we were called. But it was a joke because we weren't. But
yeah, we got some luck.
and I didn't even realize last year the first trivia at the Harbor, we picked Nobody Puts Baby Jesus in a Corner, completely forgetting that before the outbreak there was a team full of many of my church members called Nobody Puts Baby in a Corner. We were Nobody Puts Baby Jesus in a Corner. But yeah, totally forgot we stole their names. Then we ended up with Manger Danger the next week, derived from that, and that ended up being the one that we had to use in the championship or whatever, because that was the week that they registered the teams or whatever. So yeah. We got to come up with something better than that. One time we were Parsons of Interest one week. That was one of the best ones I think we had.
Parsons.
I was going to say Roughing the Pastor, but that was my fantasy name.
well, I really appreciate you coming on to the podcast, Pastor Andy.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to see what takes shape with the future of this podcast in this great community we call Waupaca. It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you on that. It is a great community.
Yep. Really feel blessed to be here.
Well, we appreciate you, man. We do.
Yeah.
But I think we've taken quite a bit of a lot of your time up. So I think we should probably call it good and move on. So.
Yeah, and if anybody listened to all of this, my hat is off to you. You can sleep through the next sermon if you want. But not really. Don't do that. I shouldn't say that. Yeah.
You can drink some brandy when listening.
Yeah. Can I close with a really great story about the brandy, as long as you brought that back?
Yeah.
Okay, so when I used to be a news reporter for the Green Bay Press Gazette before I went to seminary, and one of the really serious highlights of my reporting career, and really just probably of my life, is that I got to cover the funeral for Wisconsin's last living World War I veteran. His name was Art Fiala, and he was 106 years old, and it was in
Wow.
Kewaunee County, and it was right on, I think Highway 22 was the World War I Veterans Memorial Highway for Wisconsin. And so it just couldn't have been more fitting. And I never met the guy, but one of the previous reporters had asked him, I think when he turned 105, what his secret to longevity was. And he said that every night before he'd go to bed, he took a handful of peanuts and a swig of brandy. And then once all his teeth were gone, just the brandy. And that was a fascinating funeral to be a part of. Plus they sang "How Great Thou Art," and his name was Art, and apparently he had a good sense of humor. So I think he would have appreciated that. So.
They didn't. I don't know. I always think of Jeremiah was a bullfrog.
There's that too. That's right.
I always wanted that at my funeral. I think Wanda does the music at church, though. She said she refused to do that. So
yeah,
stuff like that.
Yeah, that would be a stretch, like the episode of The Simpsons where they tricked the organist into playing in the Garden of Eden, which is really Indagata Davida, right? It was
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. Well, thanks, guys. This has been a lot of fun.
All right.
Thank you.
Take care, man.
See ya.
Thanks for listening to the first episode of PodPaca, everybody. Make sure to follow us on Facebook and on Instagram. And if you are watching the video version of this, make sure to subscribe on YouTube so you know when new episodes come out. And make sure to subscribe on the audio services if you're listening to the audio version. And before we end, I want to thank some people that have helped make this episode possible. I would like to thank Michelle Drake, Tim Drake, Andy Behrendt, Kevin Harper, Zach Eller, Dylan Russell, Collins Pridgett, Greg Biba, Laura Colbert, Bill Zimmerman, Greg Miskinnis, Trinity Lutheran Church, Lucky Tree, Northern Home, and Kyle Pulvermacher. Thank you for making PodPaca possible, and I hope you join us for our next episode.